Hello, friends. Welcome to No Cap Room. My name is Jake Fischer, senior NBA reporter for Yahoo Sports. With me, as always, senior NBA writer for Yahoo Sports. It's my man. It's your man. It's everyone's man. It's Dan Devine. What's up?
Jake, I don't know if you know this, but 1 year ago today, Peyton Pritchard dropped 92 points and 3 assists at the Portland Pro-Am. We are officially in NBA content dead zone when Ball is Life is like, don't you remember where you were when Peyton Pritchard dropped 92 in the Portland Pro-Am? I didn't remember where I was. I don't remember. I don't know where I am right now, but I know that it's time to celebrate deep summer content. So I'm happy to be doing it here with you.
Deep summer content indeed. We will touch on the Olympics, the end of the Olympics. I know everyone listening to this is very well aware that Steph Curry made France go night-night, but Dan and I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. There's still some loose threads to tie together, and I'm not going to bother anyone with any tales regaling of my success at pickup last night. So,
see what you're doing is you're still letting us know that you had success at pickup, but you're not. It's kind of like you're like, oh, I'm not going to make a huge deal about it, but it is important to me that you guys know. So, all right, give me like the 30-second rundown of how you did.
The legs felt good. Again, lockdown defender. But the highlight is after winning the first game, game 2, we fell down 14-2, games 2s and 3s to 15. And we had a rifle of a 13-0 run to come back and win.
Much like Team USA falling down early to Serbia and then coming back.
Much like that. Team USA was up for the majority of the game against France, the gold medal game, which they took home 98-87. And I mean, I'm sure listeners in this feed caught up with Vinny Goodwill's immediate instant reaction, but for the diehard Dan Devine fans out there who love the homework kid, who love every little note that he scribbles in the margins, anything left to scour, to unveil, to analyze about the 5th straight gold medal for Team USA at the Olympics?
I don't know that any of this is revelatory, but it's a little fun. That was a 3-point game with 3 minutes to go. I feel like I already forgot that. Like I remember the 4 Steph threes, but I forgot that it was a 1-possession game with 3 minutes to go. The fight that France put up was pretty remarkable, and obviously we'll probably talk more about that and moving forward, what their future looks like. But Team USA is for Synergy Sports, which had the stats throughout the tournament. Number 1 offense in the tournament, Team USA, 116 points per 100 possessions, 12 points per 100 ahead of Serbia. So like that's like in the NBA, that'd be a giant gap, like best in the league, worst in the league kind of gap, or close to it. And also the number 1 defense in the tournament, 91.5 points per 100 possessions. So the average margin of victory for Team USA was the lowest it's been since 2004. They didn't blow teams out by as much as the Beijing team, the London team, or the Rio team, or the Tokyo team. But efficiency numbers, plus 24.9, ahead of Tokyo, ahead of Rio, and ahead of London, the best since Beijing. So in terms of the by possession efficiency of this team, it was arguably the strongest that they've put out there since the Redeem team. And the 3 leading scorers being Steph Curry, which Steph, because of those last 2 games, was the leading scorer on the Olympic team after the 4 like dismal games that he had to start, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And shouts out to our friend Rob Mahoney at The Ringer, who noted in his post-mortem piece, the only other 2 players who made 17 threes in the tournament, I believe, were Bogdan Bogdanovic and Dennis Schroeder. Curry made 17 in his last 2. So kind of funny just to think about the scale and the scope of Steph there. Yeah. But I mean, there is an argument to be made given the context of the global basketball infrastructure, the other teams in the tournament, the strength of the field, that this was certainly the most or arguably the most impressive version of Team USA we've seen since the Redeem team. And again, given the context of the full slate of teams around it, maybe no one team as good as the 2008 Spain team, but everybody else, maybe the most impressive all told run that Team USA's had, arguably since the Dream Team. Other people can argue about that, but there's at least a case to be made thanks to Steph's heroics in the last 2 games.
Should pause to say this is an Olympic rundown that we are doing through our opening segment, 5 Out.
That's right. I'm so sorry. We're going 5 out on this. We're stretching the floor. We're going to have Devin Booker in the weak side corner. We're going to have Kevin Durant off one pass away off the ball. We're running the Steph and LeBron pick and roll up top. We got AD in the dunker. Let's go.
So that was item 1, Dan's final musings. Item 2, and let's talk more about Steph, because to your point, the 17 threes in the final 2 games, there was a really funny video that Steph took. I always find it silly, but it's revealing, and we want these glimmers into these people's lives. When like Steph and LeBron go on IG Live, and they're just, if you really take a step back and think about it, they're just sitting waiting for the gold medal game or the medal award ceremony. I forget, the podium, whatever. I don't know what they call it in the team event.
To actually get the medals.
So if you really think about it, Steph, this 36-year-old man who has 4 kids and just did what he did, he's like talking into his phone like he's vlogging. It's the funniest thing possible to when you really think about what that actually is. But on a video of such, he was sitting next to Ant Edwards, and Ant basically said that Steph didn't show up until France until like 4 days ago, when they'd been there for 2 weeks, which was pretty funny. But yeah, I think ultimately, look, the Warriors put out this really cool video that in today's day and age with AI and deep fake, like it's hard to know what's real. And like, it seemed too perfect that maybe it was doctored, but then you really watch it and it's like, oh wow, there was a clip that the Warriors, I guess, kept in the vault for 2 years. It seemed like on the flight back from Boston after Golden State won it in 6, where he's saying like, the only thing left in my career, he being Steph, is to help Coach Kerr get gold in 24. And the Warriors put that out right before the gold medal game. And for him to deliver, I thought, like, old man, gray beard LeBron is was the MVP and was the captain. Like, he was the guy who was rallying the team at half court after every game. He was the one who was the vocal leader in huddles here and there. But like, for Steph to be the guy, was just a really nice storybook, which was exactly the quote that Steve Kerr used to summarize everything. But B, if we want to even like spin this towards the NBA a touch, like, to me, it's always nice when a player does something that reminds you why the team that he is employed by is operating in their roster construction, because the guy's that guy. And like, 36-year-old Steph Curry is still that guy, which is why they were looking at Larry Markkinen and other people and blah, blah, blah. And that will rule the day there, I think, ultimately, as much as Golden State did very uncharacteristically make moves to duck the luxury tax and to open up their mid-level and blah, blah, blah. Like, the Warriors know that Steph is still Steph. And it's just a nice reminder to the world, I think, at times, and even like probably Warriors fans who are like, what are we doing? To see that guy do that outside of a Warriors uniform.
Yeah, one of the things that is in terms of like fan reaction or pundit reaction, I guess, to some degree, that I saw so much of in the aftermath of the gold medal game was, this is what it feels like to root for a Steph team. And because there's so many people, it's like they've had to like live in fear of the way that Curry can destroy your whole team. And like I get why you Warriors fans are the way you are a little bit, like watching the way this guy cooks. And then also, yes, as you say, he can do this still now. Why are we not throwing everything that we have constantly at trying to get better? And then, I mean, how strongly they have done that, or to what degree they've done that, reasonable people can disagree, and the reporting can sometimes vary. But as you said, in on the Lowry Markkinen conversation, reportedly, and on the Paul George conversation, there was that Hail Mary pass back at the report at the All-Star break that they were in on the LeBron conversation, which maybe wasn't even really a conversation. But now
there was definitely LeBron trade deadline conversations. It was more of like hey, everyone involved, would you be down?
Right.
And like, over nitty. Like, I definitely think the Warriors Clippers talks for Paul George were far more substantive. Even those, from everything I was told, what we've written, what we've talked about here, like those talks never really got so serious either because Golden State was just trying to offer, for a lack of a more sensitive term, a poo-poo platter of money to match Paul George's salary, which the Clippers were being very, very clear to everyone involved around the league. We aren't going into the second apron to bring back Paul George, so why would we do that to bring back Andrew Wiggins and whoever? So,
are you saying that there's like a gap in quality of those two packages? I don't know.
Although someone with the Warriors was telling me that like Wiggins is back and he's looking great and he's as close to his 2022 finals form as he's ever been. So that was literally Monday night on the phone, just catching up with a buddy.
I mean, I hope that's the case. It would be wonderful to see because the version of Andrew Wiggins that we've seen has been a little bit more missing in action over the last year and a half or so. Yeah, I mean, I and you know, for whatever reasons that may be. But I mean, the thing with the argument of, I mean, I'm sure that to some degree, Steph and LeBron, it's like a my place or yours kind of thing. Like, you know, I don't know if LeBron's leaving Los Angeles to, you know, now that that Bronny's on the roster, and you know, I don't know that Steph's leaving Golden State for anything, but that does, you know, seeing that group together and you see like, oh, right, Steph and Durant already have a flow. They took several years to build it, and like seeing like them screen for each other. It's like, it's falling back into old habits. Seeing how quickly LeBron and Steph got on that same page, you're like, man, I wouldn't mind seeing a whole hell of a lot more of that. And then, you know, there's always the, you know, Team USA wish casting and like, which of these guys are going to, you know, is this going to be the starting point for some kind of other machination? I don't know. I mean, those stories will unfold over time. And, you know, there's already been some of those written and some of those discussed. If we wind up seeing like, I don't know, the buddy comedy of Anthony Edwards and Kevin Durant in Minnesota at some point, you know, who knows? We'll see. But I just like the fact that Steph, I mean, to me, just like the one point I wanted to make on Steph, I had mentioned a year ago. I had mentioned a couple of episodes ago that
the off season's long.
Feels like a year. Yeah, it's been a long couple of weeks, brother. I'm not going to get into that on the podcast. He had not really ever had like a Steph game in FIBA play, and you know, averaged like 4.5 points a game in the 2010 World Championship.
Yeah, I was going to say you're saying dating back to like a decade. Yeah,
well, his first like senior national team action for Team USA was at the 2010 World Cup. I was still then the FIBA World Championship in Turkey. That was like Durant's big coming out party when he was like torched everybody, and that was like, oh man, this might be like an MVP player in the league, but also might be the next main guy on the national team. And then he was on
it was.
Yes, right. No kidding. And then in the 2014 World Cup, that was more like Kyrie and Harden's team kind of. And Steph was there, but it was like complimentary, like 11 points a game, only shot like 41% from the field. So I was like, it's possible that given the style of play and how rough and tumble FIBA is and how much they let go off the ball and yada, 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 I had said like, we might not get a Steph game. Like there might not be one of those. And then, you know, we'll talk about later how predictions go wrong. Very, very clearly boofed that one at the, you know, in the gold medal or the semifinal game and the gold medal game. And it, you know, completely obliterated that. 60 points in 2 games, I think 17 for 26 shooting in the biggest games of the summer. Like he gets to go out, not only having accomplished that goal, putting that last piece together. I think our Yahoo Sports colleagues had made like an infographic about this, something to the effect of 8 or 9 guys ever have won league MVP, finals MVP, gold medal, and championship. And it's like it's a top 10 argument, right? It's like, it's very few people, you know, LeBron and Bird and Magic and Hakeem and Shaq, you know, whatever, like these names. And now Steph's there. And, you know, where he lands on anybody's individual all-time lists, that's, you know, those are going to be shifting sands for everybody. But to see a player who is revolutionized the sport the way he has, do the revolutionary thing at the biggest moment on the biggest stage to win gold was, I don't know. You try to you watch these things with a sober mind and not like fan out, but that was friggin' cool to watch, man. Like my kids and my wife, sorry, I'm about to cry.
You're getting choked up.
My kids and my wife and my mother-in-law were sitting there watching that. And they're like, he does that? I'm like, he does that. Exactly that is what he does.
Yeah.
And he winds up with the big medal for it.
I did not watch it with family. I watched it in a Fairfield Inn airport hotel in Minneapolis as I was in town for a 3-day Pakistani wedding for my former roommate Hatim. Shout out Hatim.
Shout out to Hatim.
What a way to not feel lonely, though. I'll tell you that. Just plug it into the sport. Jayson Tatum might have felt lonely on the bench. Look, when this is item 3 of 5 out. When you talked about like how it's hard to not fan out, it's part of it is also because like you're seeing all these guys being all-star, all NBA players on the bench doing the celebrations of these other guys. And
like the shoulder thing, the LeBron
shoulder thing,
too strong shoulder thing.
When Embiid was basking in the booze of the gold medal, everyone on the podium was egging him on just like that. You had the Drew Holiday wave the 3 thing. So Jayson Tatum, of course, has gotten a lot of attention this summer for many things. The first thing I think that really set him into the internet discourse wormhole was him copying every famous celebration of all time after the Celtics won the title, right down to his Sports Illustrated cover holding a martini glass, being straight out of Leo DiCaprio's Great Gatsby poster. So as Steph is running back with his night-night hands, and then the camera pans to the bench and it has all the players doing it, and Jayson Tatum's doing it, I had the thought, like, dog, do you remember he broke this out against you 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that was interesting. But obviously the bigger storyline for him in his Team USA experience was the, quote, tough personal experience that he had in very, very limited minutes, which the Celtics fans in my college group chat that still exists, talking ball, were very disappointed and screaming every single game expectedly. Why isn't he playing? His parents were screaming about it. And we had, was it Bob Cousy? Some Celtics great talking about it too. The numbers were what they were, man. Like over 16 on jumpers, according to Synergy, throughout the tournament, which if there's one thing I learned about Steve Kerr from covering the World Cup in the beautiful game, ball ping, ping, ping type of offense he wants to run, you got to shoot the ball without hesitation.
Right.
And to see someone who definitely doesn't shoot the ball with hesitation for the Celtics, kind of pump faking ghosts a little bit. There's that one sequence in Serbia where he caught on the right wing and kind of head faked and took like some weird one dribble push shot from the right elbow. Like he just did not look comfortable for whatever reason. And to me, like, it wasn't so shocking that guys like Devin Booker, namely, who famously now quote tweeted Kyle Kuzma when Kuzma was reacting to the reports that, you know, the Avengers were getting together, you know, that LeBron and KD and Steph were, and Kawhi was part of the first group too, if people forget that after everything that transpired. And they were like embarrassed by not medaling at the World Cup, and we're going to, you know, avenge that loss. That Kuzma said, well, there's going to have to be a role player on this team, which I think was probably a Kyle Kuzma, you know, raising a finger.
I know a guy who can play a role. And
in fact, I did it on a title team with LeBron and AD.
His name rhymes with Shmile Shmuzma.
And Booker quote tweets it and goes, you know, I'll do it. And Kerr gave him plenty of love for doing that. And like, yeah, I know we're taking the Jayson Tatum segment into like a Devin Booker segment, but this is just this is the beauty of podcasting.
And they're also like very intertwined because essentially Booker started at the 3, which if there was going to be a place for him to start and Kevin Durant was coming off the bench, like that's where Tatum would have gone. So those minutes that he didn't get, a lot of them were because Devin Booker got them. And
like I covered a lot of Booker's rookie season in hindsight through my book reporting. Mm-hmm. And like I spent some time around the team just like being an NBA reporter in his younger days, and was always like pretty about like first, second, third, that whole going for 70 points thing and blah, blah, blah. And he has done, and I've probably said this before, he has done such a 180 to the point where, like, I was listening to a podcast over the weekend that was like making fun of him for like having no personality and just being professional, which that's definitely not the full bag,
Sure.
But the dude is just an assassin, knows exactly what to do on the wing. And he was locking up, man. Shout out Devin Booker. And if anything, like, this run, I think, if we're talking about the Warriors or Steph, like, has to make the head honchos in Phoenix who think that their roster is better than 29 other teams feel a bit better about that gamble.
I think that makes sense. I think the thing that Booker did, the two things that Booker did at a really high level that I think made him a more natural fit for this construction than Tatum is he shot like 56% from three. He was ripping it off the catch. He was super comfortable letting it go. And when he didn't have it, he was comfortable moving the ball. So that, in terms of the offensive role, he didn't need to have a high usage rate and to command the ball to be able to impact the game in a positive way on the offense. And then he's a more like-sized, more natural ball pressuring guard defensively. So even though you wouldn't assume, and I think that's a thing that maybe some people who haven't watched Devin Booker a ton over the years would say, like, they remember the guy who scored 70 with some hijinks in Boston, but also wasn't like a defensive player and was on bad teams. He's gotten better at basically everything over the course of time, including he's a guy with like 6'5" with some heft to him and quick feet. Like, he can guard, and so go pressure opposing point guards. He could do that. That's not really Tatum's game, and so to bring it back to the fact that Steve Kerr like went out of his way to call Devin Booker basically our unsung MVP, I think that there's a lot to that. To bring it back to the Tatum point, I think the issue is Tatum winds up essentially being like, what makes him so valuable in the NBA is that he's kind of like B+, A- at almost everything, and he never gets hurt. And he plays a ton of minutes. So he's available constantly and like doesn't take things off the table pretty much all the time. And that is a wildly valuable player to have on a night in, night out basis. On this kind of team, you look at all the other sort of options. He wasn't going to play over LeBron. He doesn't provide the playmaking or the defensive versatility, the all around like oomph end to end, freight train drives that LeBron does. He's not a better shooter or complementary playmaker than Kevin Durant. And when we've seen Durant dial up defensively, Tatum is very good defensively. I don't know if he's better defensively or more versatile defensively than an A+ version of Durant there.
Who's also 7 feet tall with a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah. Booker, we just talked about, really natural fit, especially with the shots going in and the shots not going in for Tatum, which is maybe more of a rhythm thing, but there you go. Drew Holiday and Derek White, maybe two of the, handful of best point of attack guard defenders in the world. Also, very comfortable as lower usage, high efficiency shooters and complementary passers and playmakers. Do that stuff at a higher level than Jayson Tatum.
Yeah. I would say Drew had he probably ranked second behind Steph in terms of clutch 3-point shooting in fourth quarters in both the Serbia and France games. Like, he was there. He delivered. Yeah.
And as did, when you get into the other guys who got second unit minutes, like the whole idea, and we talked about it in the group stages and running up to it, that identity of we're playing bigger with AD and Bam together. Well, one of those guys is taking forward minutes. We're playing Drew and or White with Ant, and that's your wing minutes. Like, they're just, and Embiid was there for a particular purpose in those Serbia games, which are the two that Tatum got DNP CDs in. You needed more Embiid minutes in those games. Like, it just, the construction of the roster has so many guys who were like A+ at specific things and could slot into those roles. And Tatum, being as good as he is at almost everything, was not A+ in any of those areas, to where like it kind of made sense that he would be the odd man out. I don't blame him for feeling some type of way about it. I don't blame, Celtics fans. I would suggest maybe chill out, enjoy the championship. But I understand why they were frustrated.
Peyton Pritchard's wedding that was officiated by Blake Griffin.
I didn't know that. I mean, you know what it was? I was too focused on celebrating the 1 year anniversary of when he put up 92 in the Portland Pro-Am. So I was not paying attention to the wedding stuff.
You got to worry about fitting in and not fitting out.
It's true. I should worry. I mean, listen, I should worry more about outfits, actually. My clothes suck. The Tatum quote, by the way, from Brian Windhorst: "It was a tough personal experience on the court, but I'm not going to make any decision off emotions." If you
That's
asked
about
me,
2028.
Yeah, if you asked me right now if I was going to play in 2028, it's 4 years from now when I would have to take time and think about it. So I'm not going to make any decision based off this experience, how this experience was, or how I felt individually. And he added later, "I think the tough part is, yes, you can use things to fuel you, but I'm still human. Part of being in the moment, I've sacrificed and put a lot into this game and I work really, really hard. So in the moment, it's tough." Later said, "It's definitely challenging and humbling." So that's a tough situation. It's, there's a that's what the money is for component to, like, you do walk away with a gold medal. And so that's a pretty cool thing. And yeah, in 4 years, when LeBron is 43 and Durant is 40 and Steph is 39 or whatever, there's a golden opportunity for you to walk into a much more significant role where you being that good across the board at all these things, you are the piece that everything else fits around, as opposed to being the piece that has to fit in next to those guys. And he winds up being more of the fit out piece on this team.
And part of the quote unquote tough experience and part of all this from the outside too is that he was like one of the leading scorers of the Tokyo team that, to your point, LeBron wasn't there.
Yeah.
So that's just the sliding doors of all this stuff. 2 + 2 doesn't always equal 4 in these, scenarios. But let's get to number 4 of 5 out.
One sec before we do that, I just want to put a button on something I said earlier. That list that I've said, our colleagues at Yahoo Sports made the infographic of, only players that to win an NBA title, NBA MVP, Finals MVP, and Olympic gold: Jordan, Bird, Magic, Hakeem, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, KD, and now Steph. Pretty decent company.
KD won his 4th gold medal, and he bought a minority stake in Paris Saint-Germain, PSG.
I believe, not to pull rank on. I think it was Paris Saint-Germain, I believe.
Paris Saint-Germain. I'm not a soccer guy. Anything to say about KD?
Very tall, good at basketball. He leaves the Olympics with more gold medals than any men's basketball player ever. He still trails who, Jake Fischer?
I believe it's Diana Taurasi who won her 6th gold and didn't play much, but we're not talking about her tough personal experience.
That's right. And also Sue Bird has 5. So KD leaves the Olympics as the leading scorer in American basketball history, past Lisa Leslie. He's now 8th on the all-time men's Olympic scoring list. If he decides to come back in 2028, he could rise up that list. And he told our friend Mark Spears of Anscape, as far as 28, who knows? We'll see. He will be coming off his 21st NBA season at age 39. So I don't know, but crazy
LeBron
things have
just did it.
LeBron just did it. Listen, Marcelo Huertas just did it. He was 40, I think 41 playing for Brazil.
Rudy Fernandez just did it, baby. He was 40.
So yeah, and I think the thing with KD from the on-court perspective is there was like the little hemming and hawing during the exhibition, like the tune-up slate. It's like, they're having a tough time with Australia. They're having a tough time with Germany, yada, yada, yada. And then he comes in, because he hadn't played with I think the calf strain. He comes in off the bench in that first Serbia game and just goes absolutely nuclear. And you're like, right, that's the margin of error. Like when in doubt, go to Kevin Durant. And it's like what made everybody hate the Warriors is what made Team USA so hateable for the rest of the world. And, shouts out to team ownership. There's actually a lot of NBA players who have partial ownerships in soccer teams. LeBron with Liverpool, James Harden with some MLS team, the Houston Dynamo. There's a lot of like MLS ownership, but I think only LeBron and KD with major international teams. So shouts out to them.
Victor Wembanyama rounds out our 5 out here, being that draped in his silver medal, he told Mike Finger of the San Antonio Express News, quote, "I'm learning and I'm worried for the opponents in a couple of years," which is such a Victor Wembanyama quote.
Well, the best thing is they asked the follow-up, like for the Spurs, like in the NBA or in FIBA, and he said, everybody.
Yeah. Which, like, look, I said it last time that I think his offense from a like engine raising everyone's floor is for way further behind than his defense.
Yes.
Which I still maintain. However, I was texting with an international scout buddy who's been like all in on Victor since Victor was like 16. And before the game, he was like, this dude's going to come out and he's going to rip a three in the very beginning. And he's going to rise to the occasion because he does. There was one game he was referring to during his Metros 92 season where like he just had to rise to the moment. And he did. Like, he literally did rip a three in the very early. I think that was France's first bucket. He couldn't buy a shot from outside for the whole tournament. I believe he hit at least three in the gold medal game, maybe four. And, you know, the big Hezi go around Embiid basically sat Embiid's butt on the bench for the next 15 minutes of game time. The monstrous dunk inside. It was impressive showing for him, absolutely. And it's only a sign of things to come for him. Talk about San Antonio versus FIBA. Like, I'm very excited to see what Chris Paul can do for this guy and the team at large, because you saw a little bit with the French national team. And even there's a buddy of mine who's an agent who is in my pickup run on Tuesdays last night. So this is important, relevant info. Everyone that I spoke to, right down to that dude last night, was like, man, France will be really good if they get guard play. And there isn't a ton of, you know, Killian Hayes isn't coming to uplift the French backcourt anytime soon. And Ricochet's a wing, and Alex Sarr is a big, and Tidjane Salwan is maybe the largest person I've ever seen in my life. So there's potential coming in future drafts, maybe as early as 2025. But yeah, A, excited to see what Chris Paul can do with this guy. B, Wemby's insane. Just for him to be at 19, 20 years old in front of that home crowd with all the weight of those expectations. And Nick Batum said it post-game that, like, I mean, France was a mess for the last year plus through the exhibition run, getting like lambasted by Canada. And for them to pull this off, and there was so much skepticism that this was going to be a close game. And I remember hearing a coach buddy in the league tell me on the phone, like, this is going to be a 40-point blowout. So there was that aspect out there for them to totally rebuff that and bring this thing to a 3-point game with a minute left, like you said at the top. Really great showing from France, and just a really strong cap to a interesting opportunity for young Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, the name to watch for France, I think, at this point is, according to our colleague Kristen Peak, our pal on the Draft Insight, Nolan Traore, point guard who I think 18 years old, expected to be maybe a top 5, top 6 pick, like high end of the lottery draft pick next summer. And if he hits, yeah, then you're talking about they were caretaker minutes with Frank Ntilikina on the floor. There were, they turned to Isaiah Cordonier for a lot of their ball handling. Fournier did some off the bench, but like, yeah, another like incisive guard would really be helpful there. And then, we talk about what comes in 4 years' time for them. Like, Wemby will be 24 in LA. The guys who really broke through were integral in getting France right after the Gobert sort of benching and, de-emphasizing of him and Fournier, which is like Guerschon Yabusele, Isaiah Cordonier, Matthias Lesort. They're all going to be in their early 30s. So like they could still absolutely be competitive pieces of that team. And then, yeah, you got Bilal Coulibaly, who barely played in this tournament, but is going to be part of that, a fixture of that. As you mentioned, Risa, Shea, Sarr, Tidjane Salwan, Pacom Dadier, that the Knicks drafted, who's I think going to be the youngest or second youngest player in the league this season, and Traore. Like, there's a lot of young talent in the pipeline that could be, early 20s, mid 20s, entering in with some veteran wing play and bigs and some bulk there. So it's going to be a formidable team. And I think, you mentioned Batum. One of the things that he said after the game was, yeah, like the U.S. is the best team in the world, but we're getting closer. and we respect them, but we're not scared of them. And I think that's like that overall
They were
team
not scared.
And program mindset. Nor was Serbia, nor was Germany. Like these are teams that have nor was Canada in the World Cup. Like teams that have taken the U.S. measure, and they're not gonna walk in and just genuflect in front of the names on the backs of the roster. So where whatever the construction of Team USA is when we get to 2028, whatever some of these other rosters look like, there's going to be an opportunity there because I don't know that we're gonna, maybe we see one or two of Durant, LeBron, Curry, but we're not going to see them like this at this stage, at this level come there. So there's an opportunity and an open door for these teams to walk through. And Victor is an awfully, I don't know, he's gonna have to duck to get through that door, but I think he's going to be first in line to do it.
Let's duck out of here quickly for a break, and we'll be right back with some more No Cap Room. Welcome back to No Cap Room here on the Ball Don't Lie podcast, where yesterday, Tuesday, the in-season tournament. Nope, just kidding. It's now the Emirates NBA Cup.
Money, please, Emirates. Give it to me too. We're talking about we're using the proper name. Hit us off.
I don't even know what the IST was. That doesn't even exist anymore.
I don't know her.
I was in Vegas for last year's championship and semifinal of what is now the Emirates NBA Cup. And I am curious to see what next year's iteration will bring. We've got the groups. We've got the schedules.
Let's break every single game down, Jake. Let's go.
That's not what we're going to do. We're just going to quickly say what we liked from year one and what we'd like to see going forward. I have been staunchly supportive of the grotesque courts. I think they're hideous, but I think they're awesome. I remember when we talk about weddings and watching shows in the hotel room, being in DC, old college buddy who's in the Celtics group chat. We were getting ready for the Friday night welcome dinner, and the lady friend comes out of the bathroom putting the makeup on. She sees a giant purple wooden floor, and she goes, "What's that?" I said, "Oh, it's Phoenix." And they're hosting a game for what is now called the Emirates NBA Cup. And she was like, "Huh." But that's it. Just to draw the attention. I thought it was good. I would like the courts to stay. I don't know if they will stay. We did some reporting that the paint was a little bit tricky and oily and ruined the court in Dallas, but I would like the paint to stay. Dan?
Yeah, there were some players. I know Jaylen Brown had talked about slipping on it, and so there was some concern about were those because of the paint, because of the whatever else, like that maybe they were not as safe, or so hopefully whatever the iterations of it that they would use this time are, the grip is the same as the regular night to night floor. But I'm with you. I mean, even just from a dopey perspective of later in the season, you go back and you're like watching film from old games, or you're pulling up every pick and roll this guy ran or whatever, and you get to one of those and you're like immediately like, oh, that was from then. Or you're watching a highlight and you're like, that was from the during the tournament. It instantly identifies it. So yeah, it has the benefit of drawing the eye of a passerby. If you're flicking channels and you're like, what the hell is that? Also, it makes it sort of easy to categorize it in your brain, so immediately it was from this other thing. And so if you're trying to establish this other thing as like this new enterprise as different and categorize it in a particular way, it instantly sort of files it away in your brain that way. Also, the Pelicans had a skeleton pelican called a skeleton on their court that I thought was really cool, and I'd like to see more of that guy. I want to be friends.
Any changes you would like to see going forward?
I don't know. It seemed like a lot of people were complaining about the point differential component. I liked it. I wound up enjoying that. It led to like some drama on the last night of the group play games where it's like, and I know you reported on that. You were with the Nets, I believe, right? When they were sort of,
I was there,
scoreboard watching, and there was a question of, are the Celtics going to get through? Are they going to get through? Like, and I guess the main thing to me for change is like, I don't think they'll necessarily do it because they're essentially still regular season games, right? But like, I would kind of like to see it lean even further into the game being different. Like,
yes,
we just got done with the Olympics and FIBA rules 40-minute games. Like, how nice is it those games are over in 2 hours?
Sick.
How nice is
Let's
it
do
that
that. Forget about just in-season tournament games. Let's do that for all the games.
right. And like the style of play, the flow of it, like the swallowed whistles, the increased physicality, like the decreased stoppages, like the idea, I'm not saying go full, like every idea we've had for the All-Star game in the G League, put it all in now. But like, you don't need to have the Elam ending instead of overtime to be like, well, it's like set this up as a different thing. I understand they're probably not going to do it because these are still regular season games and they count in the regular season standings. So you still need to have some level of uniformity there. But I would be open to like, feel free to get weirder with this. And let's like understand it is a weird thing that is different. Let's let it be different. But I mean, that's as far as I would go. Specific changes, I feel like I'm not creative enough to. I thought this was going to suck. I was like, I think this is going to be boring. I don't think it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to add stakes. It's just going to be regular December games. And I was wrong. So they clearly know something better than I do.
Yeah, I will say, like, being on the ground for the finals, ostensibly, you got the perfect outcome possible. You got legendary player LeBron in big ass market Lakers near Las Vegas, which has always categorically been Lakers town.
Right.
So close to LA, driving, flying distance. Plus, like, young upstart team that has something to play for, even though they're not really a title contender. And the young Tyrese Halliburton-led Indiana Pacers, who then use that momentum and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, that is exactly, I think, what the league would have wanted. And the league, everyone just kind of forgot about it like a week later. The Lakers basically said it hurt them going all out for that. So I would want it to be different from the games. I don't think these have to be regular season games. And I'm taking what you said. I want it to be drastically different. I want it to be first to 100. No clock. Just something that is, because we're not getting single elimination in these games from the start, which, we don't in the Olympics, right? This formula is almost identical to what the Olympics were, where you had your 12 groups instead of 30. But then after that, like, you get 8 teams in the knockout round, and it follows almost the exact same format. So it's similar to what we see in FIBA play already. But if you're going to stick it with that, the point differential thing, just like, it needs to be hammed up more. Like, we need graphics after every game, like, here's now where the point differential stands. Like, that was what made it so fun that last night. Watching 3 games at once and like, oh, if you carry the 1 and minus the 2 and this 3 here, like,
right.
That to me brought so much extra juice. So if you're going to make these games be standard 48-minute games, standard regular season games, the only bells and whistles are that there's a fun court and these games count twice. Like, you need to make the counting twice feel twice the weight. Feel like these games count twice as much, instead of just, oh, well, we won our first game and then we lost our second, but now game 3, if we do this, this, and this, which maybe year 2, people will be feeling more, they'll have more familiarity with it. That can change. But I am with you. Make it as weird as possible. Make them not regular season games. Because the whole point of, like, making them, you're getting the game, you're getting the gate revenue, you're getting the TV money. So what's the point of it tallying to the 82 count anymore, in my opinion? And make it count just a game to 100. It's not Elam ending. It's not target score. It just, like, is the game from the jump. And it brings that pickup element into it, which is, like, where these guys really thrive. Like, the best competition is when these dudes all go to LA and work out with Rico Hines and they're playing 1 to 11. Like, do it on a national stage, the TV broadcast, 1 to 100. 25, that's when you go to commercial and bring it back. That's my take.
I like it. I mean, I don't know. I think I have to acknowledge, like, my instinct on these things is a little more traditional than I would like to admit. That I'm like, the game is cool. I like the sport. I don't necessarily need it to be wildly different. Play NBA basketball with, like giving a shit, and I'll probably dig it. But then the things that have changed, the introduction of the play-in tournament, the introduction of the in-season tournament, these tweaks, in the context of like an all-star game, I really don't care because that happens in like a parallel universe that doesn't count for anything. And it's just supposed to be like a sideshow. So kind of who cares? But games that actually do matter, I've enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm willing to keep an open mind and give the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, like hammer your point, it provided an opportunity to mint a new star in the NBA, to introduce an exciting young player to a large national audience and make people care about who Tyrese Halliburton is.
And give us the first chapter of Bucks Pacers. The rivalry continues. Wound
up being a whole friggin' thing, and then also paid off in a playoff series, right? And so there's, there was that. You had this mix of teams where, yeah, there was the blue bloods, as you mentioned, there's the Lakers were there, the Celtics were there. The Knicks, not a blue blood, but like a traditional, like a team, a like public team that, that people pay attention to, and a resurgent one. But then it's also like, get introduced for a game to the Kings, get introduced for a game to the Pelicans, figure out what's going on with the Pacers. It was a more of a hodgepodge, and also a little bit of like, this is another way to put teams that maybe don't always get as much national attention in front of a big national audience. Now, some of them kind of poop the bed, like the Pelicans against the Lakers, but then also that gives you a story to then track as you go forward. That like a big part of the rest of the Pelican season was how they bounced back from there. Big part of Zion's season was how he responded to the public criticism of his game and his weight and his fitness and everything like that. So like, it does give you more to get a handle on. And so I think it turned, I don't know what the ratings were like. I don't know what kind of revenue it drove. I would say, I think it was from a narrative
enough for Emirates to throw a big bushel of money at the league.
Yeah, I mean, right. You would imagine they would not have done that had it not been successful in some capacity in terms of drawing eyeballs and generating interest. But I do know that I think from a narrative perspective, it gave you some more things to have a handle on, and it gave you opportunities to, like, the fact that LeBron James took it seriously made it so that everybody else would take it a little more seriously. They didn't take the banner part seriously, but the games themselves they took more seriously. And I think more of that across the NBA landscape is probably a pretty good thing.
Probably a pretty good thing. Let us take one last break, and we will have more No Cap Room after this. We are back for our final segment here on No Cap Room this week. We're going to check our work, because before the 2023-2024 NBA season, we made up some silly / relevant over-unders and placed metaphorical bets on which side we thought they would come out on. So let's just recap and see how we did. First, probably one of the more consequential ones, we had James Harden games played for Philly, 0.5. Dan correctly said under. I said over, which, hindsight being 2020, look, I and many people around the league thought that Harden and his side of things were overplaying their hand, that they had no leverage, that there was only one team who wanted to trade for him, being the Los Angeles Clippers, who were not meeting the Sixers' asking price. And so the Sixers were saying, look, buddy, you're going to have to come back and play and remind everyone who you are to make the Clippers trade for them. And they didn't.
Yeah,
Daryl Morey just did the thing again.
I'd like to thank Daryl Morey, Ben Simmons, and the weight of history and precedent for this victory. All I had to do was look and say, what happened the last time one of Daryl Morey's point guards didn't want to play for him, and he sat home until there was a trade. And so James Harden did the same thing. Also, shouts out to Tyrese Maxey for making accelerating this plan. I think if Tyrese Maxey doesn't come out of the chute with like 30 a game and 8 assists a game for the first week, maybe it doesn't happen so quickly, but it did, and sweet victory was mine.
Luka Doncic, technical fouls. We had at 16.5. I said over because I watched him get tossed out of a game for Slovenia at the World Cup.
That's right.
Dan said under.
Right off of that.
And Dan was correct again. 2-0 for Dan Devine.
This is a skin of the teeth type situation, though, because he had 13 with like a month and a half left in the season. He got his 14th on March 3rd, but then we got into the rescinding. He had 2 more texts that he got rescinded over the next month. But Luka he went a full month without one. This was when the Mavs were winning. They were kicking ass. They were like the new look Mavericks. And he was, I guess, happy enough with victory that he wasn't complaining as much, or at least getting more leeway. So all we need is for Luka to continue to win at a really high clip, and then be able to work the backroom system enough to get them rescinded. And also we need to qualify that my under hits because they don't count the 6 or 7 that he got in the playoffs. Like those are a different thing. And that's not part of this under, and I still win.
We both got the next one wrong. We had combined field goal attempts per game for Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma at 39.5. The final tally, 34. So I am really striking out here.
Well, I mean, I'm sure, like your pickup run, you'll get down early and you'll come back later. But you'll lock down the defense and you'll come back later on these over-unders. What screwed us here is playing time. And so I'm looking at you, Wes Unseld Jr., and then later Brian Keefe. Kuzma played like 2.5 minutes fewer per game. Poole's minutes didn't go up from Golden State to Washington. I thought they would, but he stayed the same, like 30 minutes a game.
Probably because he took 0 games seriously the entire season.
There's also that part.
Disappointment.
But I see that I was expecting the lack of seriousness to lead to a higher shot volume, and it did not. If you per 36 their field goal attempts, it only gets us to 38.9. So we still would have been under. But I do think if they played more like heavy starters minutes, we would have gotten awfully close there. So really, this is on the coaching staff, not on us.
Yeah, we're both wrong for Jordan Poole 3-point attempts being over 10. He actually just shot 7.2. But yeah, I think like at a certain point, the Wizards seemed to be concerned that the more he played and the more he chucked, he was going to continue to devalue his potential retrade value down the line. So yeah, it's on coaching. Maybe there's some clandestine trying to do things rebuilding teams do, but also keeping trade value what it needs to be. The other bottom feeding team of the Eastern Conference, the Charlotte Hornets, for some reason, Dan believed that they would rank in the top 10 offensively.
Yeah.
I was quite pessimistic that they would be remotely close to a top 10 offense. The final answer, they were 28th in offensive rating. So I'm on the board.
You are. And this was really a LaMelo Ball will be healthy bet for me, and that blew up in my face spectacularly. He only played 22 games, and that's tough. It also wasn't very good when he was on the court in his minutes, but per cleaning the glass, 113.8 points per 100 possessions would have been 23rd in the league. The offensive efficiency with him and Miles Bridges would have been 24th. The offensive efficiency with the two of them and Brandon Miller would have been 25th. So the more of their big guys they got on the floor, the worse their offense was. This is a great big L for me, and that L stands for LaMelo.
So it's Dan 2. I have 1. We've tied in a couple. This next one's a tie as well. Austin Reeves was coming off a little bit of a breakout for Team USA after helping the Lakers get to the Western Conference Finals. And the preseason over-under for points per game was 19.5. And he was under. Came in at 16.
He did. And I think he got off to a really bad start after that World Cup run, right? Like I think he came into a starting spot for the Lakers and shot like 40% for the first couple of weeks. And that led to him getting benched. And he actually kind of stabilized from there. But he never even got close. He had 21 games, I believe, of 20 or more points. So like he cracked that plateau more often than he did. And he scored about the same level, like 16 or 17 a game in the playoffs, despite his 3 being off. So there's still room for that. But yeah, he didn't score 20. He didn't even get close to it. Didn't average more than 18 points in any month during the year. So yeah, we were right to be under on this one. But if you're a Laker, I guess hope springs eternal that things start falling, the volume picks up for him, and he can be another 20-point scorer next season.
So again, just in differences here, it's still Dan 2 and me 1. Combined appearances by Kawhi and Paul George was 109.5, which would have been roughly 55 games per person. And I said over, being that this was the last dance of the Clippers. We knew it then. All these guys going into the final years of their deals or player options that could have been the final years of their deals before they go into Intuit Dome, they were going to be out there. They were. And I won until Kawhi got hurt and the whole season got derailed in the playoffs. And then Paul George, left in free agency, and then Kawhi wasn't medically cleared or whatever the actual truth, because the Clippers and Team USA didn't say the same thing. Wherever he wasn't part of the Avengers. So I guess Dan was partially right, but I'm taking the win. It's 2-2.
Yeah. You get the win. I think I'm spiritually correct because the playing those guys the many games. I think Kawhi didn't miss a back-to-back for like the first 3 months of the season, something like that.
Yeah.
They
were invigorated by Harden's arrival.
The bill came due for sure, which sucks because they were awesome for like 2.5 months, or whatever, a month and a half. That was like 26-5 run. Had me right about them, which is always the kiss of death. So yeah, but you get this one, and that ties us up at 2.
The next one puts me in the lead because Dan foolishly
he's locking down.
Did not believe in the OKC Thunder. With the line we had was a 6.5 seed. I said under, meaning that I thought they'd be a higher ranked seed, and I said they could host a playoff series. Well, they were the top seed in the West, right. And they hosted 2 playoff series, Dan. So what do you have to say about that?
I apologize to Oklahoma City, to the University of Oklahoma State University, everybody in Oklahoma.
All Sooners out there.
All Sooners and Cowboys out there. I mean, this is what I get for doubting.
Apologize to Tyler Parker right now.
Tyler Parker, I'm very sorry. I'm double barreling the camera right now. I'm so sorry to have doubted your special boys. This is what I get for doubting a young team. In fairness to me, there's not a whole lot of precedent for everybody this young is this good. And everybody,
the last, Thunder team.
Okay. That last Thunder team had 3 future MVPs on it. Maybe this one does too. I don't know. But that was also an outlier rarity. And the idea of every young player getting better, including your all NBA first team guy, and then the center you had that missed the whole first season coming in and being an immediate, like, all defensive player, all-star candidate. I thought that was a lot of ifs to ask for. And then every single one of them went the right way. So credit to you guys. Boo to me. Boo this man. Don't let me ever set foot in the state of Oklahoma. And Jake now takes a 3-2 lead. I told you he was going to He's going to put the clamps on like a Midas pickup lead. Run. And here we go. He's making the comeback.
Look, scouting is about projecting as much as anything. And the next prop.
I'm trying to project less. I'm working on it in therapy, Jake. I'm trying to project low. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. Next one.
We had to project how many teams Pascal Siakam would play for. The line was 1.5. We both said under. We both lose. In fairness, the entire league was skeptical whether Toronto would actually pull the plug again.
Yeah.
I think the Raptors were. I think if things happened differently and they were, if they started off like Tyrese Maxey and like OKC and like Minnesota and they were at the top of the East fighting for home court, I think maybe those guys would all stay. But no, they were pretty mediocre. And obviously both Pascal and OG Anunoby together have combined for a total of 4 teams, 2 each. So we got that one wrong.
My only question on this is, for Masai Ujiri, is this technically shitting or getting off the pot? Like, he finally did one of them, but I'm not sure which one it was.
Really good question. I think it's shitting.
I think you're right. I think like actually making the active movement. There's a verb here.
Past the bow to the Pacers. Anyway, I was trying to make a ball bow pun, but I couldn't find it.
No, I think we all understood it. We're all, educated here.
We all, speaking of puns, DeAndre Ayton was referring to himself as dominating. We had 36.5 as the line. We both said over, and I'm giving us both the win because it was probably $1 billion.
Yeah, we got to wait for the official count from the Elias Sports Bureau here, but I think we can put this one in the win column.
So we're still tied. Or no, I'm still up 3-2.
Yep, you're up 1.
Number of games attended by Taylor Swift, which we don't really know. We don't have a final answer. She could have snuck in under cloak and dagger. She could have been under disguise. But look, the line was 2.5. She'd been to like 17,000 NFL games. Travis Kelce's a diehard Cavs fan. I thought maybe she'd show up in the land. And I said over, and I think we're giving this one to Dan because our crack research team here at Ball Don't Lie found 0 instances of her leaving her international best-selling,
Right. She was going to be on tour the whole time.
Yeah. So I didn't know about that one, I don't think.
Jake, I think the lesson here is you were shamelessly trying to bandwagon a viral thing. You were like, maybe if we talk about Taylor Swift, we can get a clip and that'll be something we could put on the internet and, it'll get shared around and raise the buzz for the show. And it didn't work. And I mean, obviously our show goes viral just with us talking about dominating, but that one did not work out for you. And now, Jake, it's 3-3.
It's 3-3 going into the final.
Two finest words in all of sports. It's Game 7, baby. Let's go.
It comes down to Jayson Tatum. It comes down to Jayson Tatum's finish in MVP voting, where the line we had was 3.5. I was thinking about it. I thought, all right, we got Jokic, we got Embiid, a lot of Shea love, Luka. It's like, he's on too crowded of a team. You know, they traded for Drew. Jaylen Brown's there. They traded for Porzingis. The Celtics were too stacked on paper, as they obviously were throughout the year. I did not think he would be able to cement himself. I said over, and I get the win. Comeback king.
It's
4-3 me. Dan said under, but Dan gets credit for one salient point that he made.
Finally. I thought that there was a chance that Jokic coming off the championship and not winning MVP in the Embiid year would wind up winning MVP as sort of like, not obviously he would earn it with his play, but like he would have the sort of front runner opportunity as a reward and like a makeup for not getting it the year before. And then you did prove it in the playoffs. You did win the finals. You did win finals MVP. You sort of go in as the leader in the clubhouse. And then he did and winds up with his third MVP. But I think the thing to me that's most interesting about this, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Tatum, well, I mean, also the argument for him was like he had been 6th 2 years before in voting. He was 4th the year before that, or the year after that. So like we were coming off of him being 4th. The Celtics looked like the best team in the league. There's that general like best player on best team thing, yada, yada, yada. He goes and he makes his 5th straight All-Star game, 3rd straight All-NBA first team, leads the Celtics in scoring, rebounds, and assists in the playoffs. They win their first championship. He becomes the 6th player ever to average 25, 9, and 5 in the playoffs on a title team. It's LeBron, Jokic, Giannis, Larry Bird, John Havlicek, and him. And yet, because of the Olympic thing, and because of the way he led that team during the playoffs, it feels like he's further away from an MVP award now than he did this when we were talking about this, right?
Or is this setting the stage for Jayson Tatum's revenge tour 2024?
Maybe it'll be a tough set of circumstances for everybody facing him. You know, maybe a tough experience for all that come before his wrath over the next year. Who can say?
If you guys had fun reliving our fun prop bets, send us some feedback. Send us some prop bets that you want us to do next time. Email dan.devine@yahooinc.com.
Oh my God. It's going to go straight to the spam filter. Yeah, alternate over-unders though. Fun kind of thing. I mean, everybody's going to talk about team win totals. Let's get weird.
Let's get weird. Thank you for listening to us today. Please come back next week to listen to us get weird again. Thanks to super producer John Gennaro, who does all the things to make this show look and sound great. Please subscribe to Ball Don't Lie on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're currently listening on, and leave us a 5-star review. Thank you, and good night.